Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Ahead of the Chains. I'm here joined by, of course, my favorite co-host, Patrick Seifer. Now, Patrick, in the last 48 hours of the NFL calendar, they've been pretty hectic, right? There's been a lot of trades. The rumors from free agency are starting to reach an apex. We have that coming up next week. This is what we love about the offseason. Moves materializing, desperate teams maybe making desperate moves. Who knows? Some of these moves might save their franchise. They might turn certain teams into contenders. But before we break down any of the news and rumors of the last few days in the NFL, how are you doing today, my friend?
Well, I will say it's very annoying with how much the league is heating up in terms of rumors and things overall happening. It's upsetting to see that I am not in tip top shape. I feel frankly terrible. I am incredibly ill. I'm having a little bit of a Matthew Stafford. I believe it was Thanksgiving. Broken shoulder. Still going ahead and throwing it though. Uh, Type of performance here. Hoping I could finish the drive, though. I will say it has been interesting when have been able to look at my phone without vomiting. I felt pretty shocked. I mean, a lot of very interesting moves happening in general, but I'm just excited to get into this. How about you tell us what we have planned for the viewers?
So of course I'll tell you what we have planned, but for the last couple of days I've been trying to think of what like the Jordan flu game equivalent would be for football, and I wasn't able to come up with anything except for the fact that Walter Payton actually originally broke the single game rushing record when he had the flu. So he had a flu game in Chicago before Michael Jordan did. So I'm just gonna call this the Walter Payton flu game performance from you today. You're battling through. You're a trooper. But speaking of people that are battling through, the Los Angeles Rams, man, after getting absolutely worked by JSN in the NFC Championship game, obviously I'm being a bit facetious, their corner room was a problem all year long. They made a huge splash trade, what to this point is the biggest trade of the offseason. I imagine there's going to be something bigger coming up, but as of right now, it's the biggest trade in the offseason. They traded for Chiefs standout corner Trent McDuffie, giving up the 29th pick in the draft, as well as a fifth, as well as a third next year. Now, this is a big trade for the Rams, who obviously now bolster one of the weakest spots on their roster. They obviously are now in line to pay Trent McDuffie, which is why he was traded from Kansas City in the first place. Very reminiscent of the Tyreek Hill trade a few years ago. And if this trade is anything like that trade for the Chiefs, they're going to win back-to-back Super Bowls. So maybe dealing a guy and accumulating a first-round pick is just their kind of every 3 or 4 year cycle of success. But when you first saw this trade and when you first saw the compensation going back to Kansas City, what was your kind of gut reaction to that?
I love it for both ends. These are two really good GMs, two really good teams making really good moves. That is how I look at it. I think it reminds me a lot of what the Rams were doing early in the 2020s, right? When they were saying F them picks, trade for Von Miller, trade for Matthew Stafford, doing all that stuff. It reminds me a lot of that. And it worked well for them that year. They went ahead, won a Super Bowl. Again, these are two really good teams in terms of just their process. And a trade like this that both sides really benefit from makes me feel dang good. Dang good. I mean, I really do like seeing two good teams get involved at the negotiating table and both teams exit stronger. I know that's very difficult to do, but when two teams are in different spots, they can want different things, and both teams can be benefactors of one transaction. And that's exactly what we saw right here. I really do think that.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. I thought this was a win-win for both teams. For the Chiefs, obviously they are in salary cap hell right now. There's no other way to put it. They were not going to be able to afford Trent McDuffie and what his impending extension was going to be, which is probably going to be above Sauce Gardner, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, which is currently at 30 million AAV. There's no way they were going to be able to pay that. They traded him at the right time. You know, Bill Walsh used to say, "I'd rather trade a guy a year too early than a year too late." They got the maximum value for Trent McDuffie, and then like we said with the Rams, like this is a team that probably could have won the Super Bowl with better corners. Like had they not had those troubles, that and special teams were the two absolute Achilles heels of this Los Angeles Rams team, who many people throughout the entire year thought were going to win the Super Bowl. Instead, now it's their division rival. And when you're that close and your division rival beats you twice in the stretch of the year, goes on to win the Super Bowl, I love being aggressive from there. And I love the fact that they are not going to settle for being the runner-up in the NFC. They don't know. The reality of it is they don't know how long they're going to have Matthew Stafford at tip-top shape or in general, right? The retirement rumors were swirling last offseason. There was a question this offseason before he announced that he'd be coming back. Who knows about next season? Maybe they only have another season left with Matthew Stafford. You have to maximize that window. You have to give yourselves as good of a shot as possible to go get another Lombardi. So from their end, I like it. We mentioned this a couple weeks ago as well. Like, they're really not paying anybody a whole lot of money. That's why I think they're gearing up to pay Puka. They're backing up the Brinks truck firm as we speak. But now add Trent McDuffie to that list, who is going to make, obviously, I think $30 million or more AAV. You mentioned, like, this is two good GMs. This is two Super Bowl winning GMs. This is two GMs who have made selectively aggressive trades throughout their tenure, making a trade that's mutually beneficial. And that's so rare in the NFL and might not exactly be the case for another trade that we'll talk about today. But I can't agree with you more that, like, when I saw this trade, I was like, man, that's a steep price for Trent McDuffie. But what does the Rams better right now? Trent McDuffie or the 29th pick in the draft? Like, is the 29th pick in the draft going to be as impactful as Trent McDuffie is in 2026? I don't think so.
Well, no, I think the big thing is, so I know it's interesting because the Rams, they're such a good team. But besides the wide receiver 2 spot and the quarterback spot, which I know the quarterback spot is a big concern, where do you really need to get that much younger? Where is the clock really ticking? The engine for your defensive unit is a very young defensive line.
Yeah, their D line's great. Yeah.
Exactly. You have the best wide receiver in football, and he's very young. I mean, you look right now, the offensive line looked a lot better last year, and they are younger. I mean, where are you concerned? Where are you concerned? Where are you really saying, oh, we're going to lose him, we need to start thinking about a replacement? Like, no, man. I think that when you have a young core, the draft picks become a little bit more expendable. And when you're able to go ahead and make a trade with the Falcons like they did last year, and now they have the 13th pick, all of a sudden, pick number 29, you're willing to sell that away.
Yeah.
Like, that opens lanes for you. When you're playing the market a little bit better, you have more stuff, in your pocket, so you're willing to sell a little bit more. And that's what the good teams do, and that's why the Rams have been a benchmark in terms of team building for the past few years.
Yeah, and you talked about how their old model was F them picks. I would say they're still in that model. Since 2017, you want to know the only player they've taken in the first round? Jared Verse. Every other first-round pick they've had has been used to get Jalen Ramsey, Matthew Stafford. Last year they traded with the Falcons. At the time, I thought that was a horrendous trade for Atlanta. Now it looks even worse, giving the Rams the 13th overall pick. So you trade a first-round, basically you trade a free first-round pick, get Trent McDuffie in the last few picks of the first round. Like you said, you still have the 13th overall pick, so you can go get a pass rusher, a pass catcher. You can get whoever you want. They're like the luxury is open now because, like you said, do they have any real immediate needs? Now that corner is surefied, right, with Trent McDuffie, do they have any real immediate needs? Oh, this guy's 37. He's going to be leaving soon. Oh, this guy's, upcoming free agent. Oh, this guy. No, they don't. You could argue Stafford, but again, that's up in the air. You're not going to draft a guy in the first round when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback, I don't think. But they have put themselves in a great position. Les Snead is one of the best in the business. And again, I do think that because Seattle was able to win the Super Bowl, they're kicking into overdrive a little bit. They're amping up their aggressiveness. Now, speaking of Super Bowl, Patrick, I have to ask you, because so many people last year, the Rams were their darling. They were the belle of the ball. They were the team that was going to win the Super Bowl. After acquiring Trent McDuffie, and obviously we still have to see what they do in free agency and what they do in the draft with that 13th overall pick, right now, today, as of March 5th, are the Rams your favorite to win the Super Bowl now that they got Trent McDuffie?
How could they? I mean, really, how could they not be? Listen, injuries happen, and Matthew Stafford could get hurt. Puka Nacua might miss. Who knows? Like, stuff could happen, and then all of a sudden they suck. Like, that's what football is. But in terms of just on paper, how could you not pick them? You know, Sean McVay isn't going to let this team regress. They just improved their biggest weakness. And they have another first round pick, an early first round pick, to continue to patch that up. I mean, yeah, man, it's really hard to say that they're not the Super Bowl favorite, in my opinion. You have a defensive line that gets after the quarterback. And since they added some more beef on the interior defensive line last offseason, they've been a lot better at defending the run. That linebacker room really took a step up last year. The secondary is going to be a lot better now that they have Trent McDuffie. They have the best receiver in the sport in Puka Nacua, in my opinion. And Matthew Stafford, the quarterback that he is, I mean, he's ridiculous. There's a reason he won the MVP. I mean, he is spectacular. And they still have Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is an incredible player in his own right, alongside Puka Nacua. That's 2 top 10 receivers and a great quarterback behind a good offensive line and some fine running backs back there. It's hard to bet against them. I don't think there's another team with as convincing of a case.
Yeah, if only they could catch punts, that would be catch and cover punts. That would be pretty cool. And I think that, you know, as I'm being facetious and I'm being humorous because I am a Seahawks fan, but realistically, you look at this Rams team. If you're a Rams fan, if you're Les Snead, if you're Sean McVay, you say if we don't allow Rashid Shaheed to run back a punt, and if we don't drop a punt in the NFC Championship game, we're hosting a Lombardi Trophy right now. And as much as I want to say Seattle was the better team, which they were because they didn't make those mistakes, it is really, really easy for you to convince yourself, hey, the Rams should probably have the Lombardi out in Inglewood right now. And so making a move like this takes them from the team that should have won the Super Bowl to the team that probably most likely will win the Super Bowl in 2026. I want to switch to talk about now the Chiefs end of this, right? Because I was thinking about this today or in the last few days, and there's all these rumors and stuff before free agency, and we know that the Chiefs are an absolute financial ruin right now. They need to just get above water with the salary cap. I was thinking to myself, like, you know, why would they not prioritize Trent McDuffie? And my main conclusion that I came to, which you're welcome to disagree with, is they chose to prioritize Chris Jones, a dominant interior defensive lineman, over a corner in Trent McDuffie. Now, the Chiefs have let go of corners in the past, most notably Jalen Watson, Charvarius Ward, who went to the 49ers, and it seems like their defense really hasn't skipped much of a beat under Steve Spagnuolo. What they haven't had, though, is a defense without Chris Jones. So my question to you is, would you rather, 2026 alone, would you rather have Chris Jones or Trent McDuffie? Because clearly I think they were in a spot where they could only pick one.
That's a tough one. That is a really tough one. I mean,
that's why they pay me the big bucks. I ask the good questions.
McDuffie's younger. Does that contribute much to any of this? Am I allowed to say that? Is that a cop-out for me to go with the younger guy?
It's a slight cop-out. I'll give you like a half point. It's a slight cop-out, but I would like to hear some real reasoning from you.
Okay, so I'll say this. A defensive tackle on a defensive line that's really built to defend the run. Like George Karlaftis is a run-defending edge rusher. And you look across that defensive line, they've been trying to bring guys in to really get to the quarterback. None of it has worked. Felix Anudike-Uzomah has not. He's been a non-factor. Omar Norman Lott they drafted. He's supposed to be this great pass rushing interior guy. He hasn't carved out a role for himself. Chris Jones has been their best pass rusher. So I guess for that reason, because they have struggled so much to get a pass rush without him, you have to go Chris Jones if you're talking just this year in a vacuum.
Yeah, and I'm going to say something, and I was thinking about this, and it might not make sense to a lot of people, but it makes sense to me, and that's all that really matters. I think that Trent McDuffie might be a better player at this point, but Chris Jones is probably a more valuable player for the Chiefs. Like you were saying, their defensive line, I mean, we're talking about like one of the worst units in the NFL, sans, Chris Jones. Sans Chris Jones.
No, they defend the run well. That's what they're there to do.
But they have no pass rush. And they have very little pass rush. Chris Jones provides that. He also plays the run well. And we've been talking all offseason about just how dominant a interior defensive lineman is to your defense. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting close to saying that those guys might be more valuable right now than edge rushers. I'm not there. I'm not there yet. Don't yell at me. But I'm getting close because I do think that their impact is so monumental on a defense. So, obviously they answered that question. They said we would rather have Chris Jones. They traded Trent McDuffie to the Rams. Obviously, I think part of the equation as well is we're going to get a lot more in a trade for Trent McDuffie. So if it's a tie or if, McDuffie's winning by a little bit, the draft pick compensation that we're getting in return obviously tips the scales in Chris Jones's favor. After trading McDuffie, and obviously Patrick Mahomes is coming off of the torn ACL. We don't know how he's going to be. Travis Kelce's still a free agent, although I would be shocked if he went anywhere but Kansas City. Are the Chiefs a legitimate threat in 2026, or is this kind of like a lull down year before they kind of retool for 2027?
You got to keep in mind, Mahomes is supposed to miss time to start the year. So in my opinion, it's absolutely going to be a down year, and that's fine. Look at their division right now. You want to wait for them to have a little bit of regressing, you really do. And I think that's what they're kind of going to look for. They are going to let this year just, kind of ride it out, not tank. They're going to try and win, but they're going to play things safe. But man, look at the capital they got here. We might see a second wave of this Chiefs dynasty real soon because Mahomes is still there. And Mahomes is a heck of a quarterback. Even without Travis Kelce, maybe even without Andy Reid. I love what Mahomes is capable of. I know, crazy hot take. Mahomes is a good player. What? But having
who put Chris Collinsworth on my podcast, man? Where did Chris Collinsworth come out of? This is crazy.
Having number 15 alone will always kind of put you in the spot of you can do it. You just need to build the pieces.
Yeah.
And they have the capital now to build the pieces. They got a first, a third, a fifth, and a sixth.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's some good value.
Yeah, that's really good value.
That is some good value. And, I mean, it becomes a little bit of a question of did the Rams give up too much? I would say no. I personally would say no, just because the Rams, again, like I said earlier, you have the ability to give up that much capital because you have the 13th overall pick. But that's on the Rams side of things. We already talked about that. As for the Chiefs, you got all that value out of Trent McDuffie instead of paying a young player a lot of money. And you are in a cap spot where you really can't be paying him that type of money. So trading him away, I'm a really big fan of that. And that return.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's any way that they, like I said, they could have kept him. And, you talked about like the other dynasty, the Patriots. The only player that was throughout the entire dynasty was Tom Brady. Like you said, as long as you have number 15, you're good to go. People will leave. Wes Welker left in free agency and Randy Moss was traded away. And like all of these guys, and they matter. But at the end of the day, if you have that, one of one Hall of Fame quarterback, you're going to be set to go. The other point I want to make regarding the Kansas City Chiefs is, you mentioned Andy Reid, which I think is interesting. I don't know how much longer Andy Reid has as coaching. There's been reports out there that he is, in his last few years. So I don't know if the Chiefs, to answer my question that I asked you a few minutes ago, I don't know if the Chiefs are going to be great in 2026, but I'm damn sure they're going to be good in 2027. Like this little lull that they've had that was in 2025 and we predicted 2026, it will not continue for much longer. Like they will retool. They have one of the best GMs in the NFL who is now equipped with. We talked about the capital they got from McDuffie. They also have a top 10 pick in this year's draft. So they're going to restock this roster. They're going to retool this roster, which the best teams always have to do. And more so than most GMs in the NFL, I have faith that he is going to pick quality players that are going to be Kansas City Chiefs and be very productive for a long time.
No, I think that's completely valid to say. Again, there's a reason the Chiefs were this team that almost won 3 straight. There's a reason that they've kind of been dominating the league for a long period of time. Don't let one down year make you think it's overly different, right? Yeah. This team is currently in a very bad spot, but now they literally have everything they need to fix that, right? Yeah. They have the capital to go ahead and fix it. They're creating the cap space to go ahead and fix it. Some of this change is good. Travis Kelce moving is good because, I mean, you look at the modern tight ends, right? The great tight ends right now, how many of them are that style of player anymore? The more nuanced, settle
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
zone types of guy. That's not what it is anymore.
Hmm.
Now it's these freak hybrid athletes
Yeah.
that are out there and dominating from the tight end position. The Chiefs are learning how to evolve right now.
Yep.
They are adapting their offensive unit right now. I think the past year or two they've been too Mahomes dependent,
Hmm.
and they thought Kelsey would really help make up for a lot of things. He couldn't, and there
Yeah.
was too much on Mahomes' back. They also had Matt Nagy on the team, which
Hmm.
was a huge issue. Now they have
Yep.
Eric Bieniemy back,
Shout out New
and I
York
do
Giants,
think
man. Enjoy.
I do think if we're going to talk about replacing Andy Reid, I think the protege is right there on the roster. I really do. I
You're
think
talking
the
about Eric
protege
Bieniemy?
is Bieniemy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he is. Listen,
That.
he's been developing the guy for so long. It's
Yep.
just a question of why do you let him go for a period of time?
Well, I think actually that was a strategic move on his end because he wasn't calling plays under Andy Reid. And so the thought was, oh, he's just an underling of Andy Reid. He's like, I'm going to go to Washington. I'm going to call plays. I'm going to get it worked out. Problem is, he had Sam Howell as his quarterback. Things didn't go well. Then he was like ostracized from the league for like a couple of years, which was really weird. He went to like UCLA or whatever, but really rebuilt his name with the Bears last year as their running backs coach. I mean, Monungai and Swift had the best year of their career. Kyle Monungai, obviously by default because he was a rookie, but Swift had a phenomenal year. And I think that, he's earned back a lot of that goodwill. I'm sure Ben Johnson put in a good word. Andy Reid welcomed him back with open arms and like showed Matt Nagy the door. So I don't think that that's a crazy thing at all, because if you remember like 4 or 5 years ago, this is a guy, he was like, Ben Johnson light. Like every team, it sounded like, wanted to interview him to be their head coach, and it just for whatever reason didn't work out, and then didn't work in Washington. But I do think that Eric Bieniemy would be a fine replacement for Andy Reid. But I got to say, when this trade happened, I texted you. We added it to our rundown. We were like going to talk about it, research it, whatever. And I texted you yesterday, and I said, "Listen, I don't think that this is the end of the news in this cycle. I think we've got more to put down the rundown." And that news happened this morning. And that trade I'm talking about is, of course, the DJ Moore trade. DJ Moore this morning was traded to the Buffalo Bills along with a fifth-round pick, and in return, the Chicago Bears got pick 60 in the second round. Patrick, when this trade was first reported, and we didn't know the details yet, we didn't know the draft compensation, they were floating around, hey, it's a mid-round pick, it's whatever. I was like, man, if the Bears could get, a high third or something like that, that would be great. To end up with pick 60, I thought was a massive win for the Bears. I understand, obviously, they had to give up a fifth rounder in return, which to me, that's just like pocket change, like throw it in there. To get pick 60 in a trade with DJ Moore that not only gives you really good draft capital, but also gets his contract off the books. I mean, the Bills have said that they are going to guarantee his salary for 2026, 2027, and 2028. I mean, is this anything other than an absolute slam dunk by the Bears and King Poles, who is cooking once again?
Uh, this is why Miller hates me, man. Because my first thought, and honestly, I didn't think about that at all until now, right? My first thought with this trade was Brandon Beane sucks at his job. That was my first thought. In fact, I never even thought for a second, hey, Bears, way to be. Because you're right. All that stuff is entirely true. All that stuff is entirely true. The Bears, I mean, clap it up, because this was so much addition by subtraction on their part. I completely agree in that sense. But again, this is why Miller hates me, because I really struggle to give Poles as much credit as I do give Brandon Beane a lot of crap.
If Les Snead made this trade, I think you'd be building a statue right now. But that's besides the point. That's besides the point.
Okay,
I
I
think
don't
this.
think you're right. I really don't. I think you underestimate my hatred for Brandon Beane.
No, I do, but he's nothing like his brother Billy Beane. Obviously, that's a baseball joke for you Moneyball fans. I think this trade is good for the Bears because I'll be the pro Bear side, and then I guess you could be the
And you're
anti
right.
Bill side.
It's
Yeah.
great for the Bears. I'm
Yeah,
not saying it's bad for. How
And
could it be bad for the Bears?
And I agree with you. Like, this is
genuinely one of the worst trades I've seen in the
yeah.
past.
This is
300
straight like highway robbery. And I'll start by saying DJ Moore is a fine player. He's not a bad player. He's not a horrible player. He's not like a diva, but he's not an elite player.
Is he not a diva?
Divas, I think, a tier above.
2 years ago, he was walking off the field mid-play.
Hey, let's say headache. I'll give you headache. I won't give you diva.
Okay,
There's
fine.
levels. There's like Antonio Brown's at the top, and then you go down the list,
Okay,
and it's
well,
like
that I
he's
get.
in the headache tier. Okay, but this
He's a
trade is
little
good.
bit below DK Metcalf.
Yeah, yeah. DK Metcalf would be yeah, absolutely. This is a trade that's great for the Bears threefold. Number one, you acquire additional draft capital, including pick 60. My gosh. Number two, you get DJ Moore's contract off the books. You clear up some cap space, which I will go on a rant about that in just a few minutes. Do not walk away. And number three, this is a position that you do not need. Like this is not like oh man, like now we're thin at receiver. You still have Luther Burden, who in short spurts was phenomenal last year, I thought. You still have Roma Dunze, who the Bears clearly still really like. I know he had a down year last year, but they took him with the 9th overall pick just a few seasons ago. And oh, by the way, you have Colston Loveland, the rookie tight end that was one of the best rookie tight ends in NFL history, broke the single game playoff receiving record for rookie tight ends in his first playoff game, and was legitimately awesome down the stretch for the Bears. Looks like one of the best up-and-coming young tight ends in the NFL. All of those guys are young and cheap, and you traded the guy that was older, more expensive, and got premium draft capital. So this, again, King Poles is chefing up. He's in the kitchen, and I will have more to talk about the Bears in a few minutes. But, again, I agree with you that Billy Beane should be he just got an extension. Now he's feeling himself a little bit. He got his boy Sean McDermott out the door. He just kind of thinks he could just go willy-nilly, do whatever he wants. But for the Bills side of this, like, yes, they are desperate for a receiver. Yes, Keon Coleman, you can't go into the year with him being your number one guy. Draft somebody, like I don't know, like use your draft picks, use pick 60 that you just gave the Bears to go and get a guy. Like I understand it on like a very basic, like, oh, they got DJ Moore, okay, they need receiver. If you peel any more layers off of that, it just makes less and less sense. So I'm with you. I think this is a bad trade by Brandon Beane, but good on Poles for, I guess, stealing candy from a baby here.
I mean, this is just like a matter of Brandon Beane continuing to be terrible. And honestly, you reminded me he got extended. Keep in mind, they picked him over Sean McDermott. That was the argument. It was Sean McDermott or Brandon Beane, and they picked Brandon Beane. The same Brandon Beane that in the past 5 years has only drafted, I think, 2 Pro Bowlers, right? Is that correct? I
James
do know
Cook's one of them. Who's the other one?
and I know the Pro Bowl is kind of irrelevant, but if you look at the past 5 draft classes,
Well, you see,
there's 2 names. There are 2 names that are like, okay, that's good value. They're James Cook and Osiris Torrance.
See, well, you're not getting the meta though, because he knows he's such a bad drafter. That's why he gives up his draft picks. See, he's playing
Okay, and
Beans
fine.
playing 40
That's-
chess while we're all playing checkers right now.
That's fine, but the guy you traded for is not even remotely worth the 60th overall pick. The guy you traded for, I think anything higher than a 5th rounder is crazy.
I thought the Bears could have gotten a 4th. I would have been. I
DJ
expected
Moore
at least a
isn't
4th.
good. Like I'm gonna be very
He's
very honest.
solid. He's solid.
At the current point of DJ Moore's career, he does more damage to your locker room than he actually provides you on the football field. He is not a very good player right now. I mean, we saw constant drops throughout the year. We saw him give up on a route. Let's not forget, just a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
a month or 2 ago, we were trash talking him because he gave up on a route that ended up causing a game-losing interception.
Season losing interception. Really.
Season losing. Exactly.
Yeah.
He isn't good. It's as simple as that. At one point, DJ Moore, big name. Big name. And here's the thing. He's going to go for 1,000 yards. But when they're playing against the good teams, when they play against the Patriots next year, do you think he's getting open against Christian Gonzalez in the AFC? You think he's getting open against Derek Stingley? Like, let's be real here.
Under 20 receivers in the NFL better than DJ Moore.
Over. Slam it. Slam it.
I was going to say 25. I think he's probably in the 25 range.
I disagree. You're saying you think he's a wide receiver 1.
He's a lower end wide receiver 1, in my opinion.
I completely disagree. I could not disagree more.
I think that's a fun, not on camera because there would be a lot of dead air, but I think just going through naming, numbering how many receivers are better than DJ Moore could be an interesting exercise, because I see DJ Moore a bit more optimistically than you. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I'm not just gonna sit here and be like, you're wrong. I see him as a better player than what you see him. With that being said, giving up pick 60 is ludicrous. Giving up, guaranteeing his contract for the next 3 years, which, by the way, I mean, he signed a $110 million contract with the Bears. He is not a cheap receiver. This is not like, trading for a guy like A.D. Mitchell, he's just dirt cheap for the next 3 years. Like, you're paying a significant draft and financial burden to acquire a guy like DJ Moore. So it better work out. It better work out for Brandon Beane. But there's another angle to this
Yeah.
that I really want to run. And you are famous for your anti-running back rants. I want to start being famous for my conspiracy rants. So I think that this is all a big master plan from the Chicago Bears. A couple of weeks ago, you talked about how you thought when we did our Max Crosby episode, right? You said the Bears are the most likely fit for them. And I pushed back a little bit. And the only reason I disagreed with you was because I said, listen, they don't have the cap space. I would love it. It makes sense. They need to be aggressive. They need help on the defensive line. They're in a NFC North that's kind of becoming an arms race, especially now with the Rams getting Trent McDuffie. This is a prime position for prime team for Max Crosby to go to. They just don't have the money. Well, in the time since then, their center just up and retired, and they traded DJ Moore. Those two moves combined saved about $27 million against the cap. That is now creeping into we can afford Max Crosby range because his salary cap hit for this year is about $35 million. Pretty feasible for a player of his caliber. Now, $35 million salary cap hit for one player is not cheap by any means, but it's a lot more manageable than I think some people realize. Now the Bears have put themselves in position to where they're creeping into territory where they can acquire Max Crosby, not only for the salary cap, but also for the draft pick compensation. We talked about how they just got pick 60 from the Bills. I would imagine they also have another third rounder coming in as a compensatory pick for Ian Cunningham going to the Atlanta Falcons. Now there's like this weird kind of controversy. Is he the director of football operations, or is he the GM or whatever? But the Bears did appeal. I do think they will win that appeal. I think the Bears are gearing up to get Max Crosby. I am not the only one that thinks that, by the way. I looked up the odds on the odds makers. The Bears are now far and away the number one team most likely to trade. Take Vegas odds for whatever they are, right? But they are now far and away the most likely team to make a trade for Max Crosby. They're minus 150. That is incredible. Minus 150 for the Bears. The next closest team is the Cowboys at plus 225. So when you combine their addition in draft capital, their huge need at defensive line, and now they have some more money to play around with, I think Max Crosby is going to be a Bear. I'm going to come out. I'm going to say it. You said it last week. I disagree with you because of the money. I'm going to come out and just say it. Max Crosby, welcome to Chicago. I hope you like Portillo's, my friend.
Yeah, shout out Santa Bean, bro, for really setting them up perfectly.
Billy Beane creating the Bears dynasty.
Quarterback.
Billy Beane creating the Bears dynasty with a Hall of Fame quarterback of his own, setting up for another Hall of Fame quarterback. Cue the Martin Scorsese absolute cinema meme. That is just the script writers at their finest.
Listen, and here's my thing. I could do exactly what you're doing and praise the Bears all you want about this trade. But let's be honest, that's not the storyline with this trade. That really isn't. The storyline is 100% this team that has struggled to find a true wide receiver since they traded for Stephon Diggs, continuing to have that exact struggle and then making a complete desperation move for a receiver that is not even remotely worth that capital. That is what the storyline is. And Josh Allen is probably going to end up being the next Dan Marino because of these exact types of moves. Let's not forget they drafted Keon Coleman with the 33. He's been terrible. They have been awful in the draft. Horrible, horrendous, paying a lot of the guys that they paid to get the type of production that they've gotten out of them. It is downright offensive, and it's offensive that this guy got extended. Brandon Beane getting extended is offensive, and him pretty much rubbing in our face how undeserving of an NFL job with a trade like this. I mean, it's painful. I really wonder how Sean McDermott reacted to this trade, right? How do you think Sean McDermott was sitting on his phone, checking Twitter, and he sees them bring on DJ Moore with the 60th overall pick on that contract?
This is like I love my analogies, right? And I'm going to get you with a golden one right here. This is kind of like, you get divorced, right? and you're sitting on the couch and you're like scrolling through her Instagram or whatever, and now she's just dating like an ogre, like she's dating Shrek now, and you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, it sucks we broke up, but like she not doing any better. And it's even funnier because the first thing that Brandon Beane did upon getting extended and getting his ex kicked out and Sean McDermott was hiring Sean McDermott's offensive coordinator to be coach. Like that was the first thing he did, and then the second thing he did was just egregiously overpaying for DJ Moore. I do wonder the Joe Brady angle to this all because obviously
Yes.
Joe Brady and DJ Moore were together in Carolina. DJ Moore had some of his best years production wise in Carolina. I wonder how much of this was Joe Brady like begging, pleading Brandon Beane to go get DJ Moore. But that doesn't excuse the move. If you're Brandon Beane, you're the GM. Like you should not be getting controlled by a first year former offensive coordinator, now head coach, to make personnel
Former
decisions.
wide receivers coach.
Yeah,
That is
exactly.
why. I mean, I guess we're supposed to trust his evaluation, but he was also on the staff when they drafted Keon Coleman.
Yeah, it's like you don't think that Joe Brady wanted Keon Coleman. Like this is where we're going in circles a little bit because it's not adding up. The math's not
No,
mathing.
but Brandon Beane said Sean McDermott wanted him. Ignore the hard knocks.
Oh, right.
clip
Tara
of him.
Pacula said it was
Ignore
McDermott's
the
fault.
hard
That's
knocks
right.
clip of Brandon Beane actively praising Keon Coleman.
Yeah, he's like watching him at the combine. Like, yeah. What was his quote in that documentary? He was like, I went to bed that night saying it's Keon or nothing. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you also wanted him, man.
What is the press conference for if not lying to your fans and making them feel like idiots? Yeah, that's brilliant. I gotta love Brandon Beane, man.
Me when I absolutely lie to all my fans and throw my old coach under the bus so that no coach ever wants to come sign with my team ever again. No, it's just I was and we talked about this a while ago, but I think some organizations are dysfunctional at their core, but they get blessed with a Josh Allen. They get blessed with this like generational level player, and it makes you forget that they're dysfunctional because they have so much success. And not in the Bills case, but like you go to the Super Bowl or they're going to the playoffs every year. They won the NFC East for 45 years in a row, and now we're starting to see what the Buffalo Bills are. Right, we're starting to see from top to bottom they're dysfunctional. And again, it was hidden a while. And I think McDermott actually, the more this circus goes on, the more good credibility that Sean McDermott gets. He gets to say like, hey man, I was with these crazies for years. We went to the AFC Championship a bunch of times. We went to the playoffs every year, and now they're running the ship and it's going to shit. Like that to me is the best look that Sean McDermott could ever have because things have not been good in Buffalo. From the time he got fired, it has been nightmare fuel up until this March 5th. We'll see what they do in free agency. We'll see what they do in the draft. But if I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, I am like just praying and begging for the season to start because I do not want any more offseason drama going on.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling, lock him in as a Buffalo Bill. All right. Now that's a chain mover.
He ran like 4.3 like 10 years ago. That's pretty fast. Okay, that's pretty fast.
Joe Brady knows his receivers.
Joe Brady knows his receivers. He's going to bring back Terrence Marshall from the Carolina days. He's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. We're not seeing the vision right now. Okay, Brady.
I'll be honest. I think DJ Moore breaks 1,000 yards this year.
Oh, he'll be productive for sure.
I just don't think he does anything relevant in meaningful games.
I do think that there is, and I know we're going to trash on Brandon Beane, baseball guy. Sorry, I do. We're going to trash on Brandon Beane, but like, I don't want to overstate like just how bad the Bills, how dire their wide receiver situation is right now. It's really bad. So again, the very basic level of we're getting Josh Allen, a productive former Pro Bowl guy who's been in the league a long time. He's a fine player, was at one point a really good player. Like that argument is solid. It's just the details that follow that really make it fall apart. But he will, by a long shot, be their best receiver. He will be their most productive receiver. He probably will break 1,000 yards. He'll give them somebody that is somewhat dependable in the passing game, which they have not had. I mean, they had Brandon Cooks.
Dependable is a word for it.
I'll say
more dependable than the other guys.
Exactly correct. He's on top of the dependability leaderboard that they have in that wide receiver room. But when you have Brandon Cooks, not catching an interception in the AFC divisional round and the year of our Lord 2026, I'll give you a little grace. I'll give you just a teensy bit of grace, but that's about as much grace as I'm giving Brandon Beane.
Here's my thing. Stephon Diggs is on the market. Mike Evans is on the market. You have all these guys available that you could try and add, and you throw away the 60th overall pick. In fact, if they drafted a receiver with the 60th overall pick, you probably would have got a guy better than DJ Moore. I mean,
Yeah.
not the Bills. The Bills probably would have found a way to get someone worse, but the majority of teams would have found a way to get someone better.
Yeah. I don't know. Does Keon
Like-
Coleman have a brother coming out in the draft this year? Maybe they could take him. Maybe they can go with two
It's
clones.
awful process.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
in all honesty, Romeo Dobbs is probably $13 million cheaper,
I don't know.
and I
like
think
Romeo
he's
Dobbs.
probably better.
I do not like. You're not gonna give me that. I do not like Romeo Dobbs. I'm gonna be honest.
I don't like DJ Moore.
You could
I
not
feel
like
like- I
DJ
feel
Moore,
like-
but he's better than.
I think
Romeo
there's a
Dobbs.
lot of the DJ Moore value, and clearly Brandon Beane sees it. That just coasts off the name. I think his film has been terrible the past 2 years. Really, he hasn't been a good player.
Yeah,
It's not, like he's had moments, but he's not good.
yeah.
It really is that simple. Like I'm sorry to break it to you, he's not a good player.
I didn't
it
say
is
he was
as
good.
simple as that. And I understand. Oh, in the NFL, everyone's a good player. Like, yeah, obviously. Like, he is an NFL caliber wide receiver. He is an NFL caliber wide receiver 3. But
You're being a little mean. You're being a little mean. He's better than an NFL receiver 3. I mean, again, I will contest, and this is my piece with it. I think that he is a very low end receiver 1. I think he's a solid receiver 2. Like, you could do a lot more.
If 1 is crazy.
He'd be the number 1 receiver on.
Crazy.
He'd be a number 1 receiver on 5 or 6 teams easily right now. Easily.
I think that's insane to say. Or
Bills are definitely one of those teams.
okay,
He'd be the number 1 receiver on the Chiefs.
No, Rashee Rice is definitely better.
Rashee Rice can't.
Without a doubt.
You want to talk about not being dependable? You can't even depend on Rashee Rice to not break every law known to
are
the
we
United States.
Okay, fine. If you're accounting for
I
availability,
mean, we're considering all things. Like, he's going to get suspended again.
Well,
Okay.
Fine.
I mean, that's my piece on that.
I don't know. I think wide receiver 3 might be harsh, but he's not I would say probably not a top 50 receiver. I would say that. Like, he's not. The film has been very bad in the past few years.
I think you're
He's not a
overestimating how
huge
many good receivers there are in the NFL. I mean, again, we're not going to do it on camera. It would take us like 30, 40 minutes. But if we numbered off receivers we would most want to have, he is probably in the 30s. Probably in the 30s. There's not 50 guys better than him. I don't think.
I think so. And listen, for the most part, it's easy to say, listen, these are NFL GMs. They know how to evaluate talent. But this is a staff that is nothing but proven that they don't know how to evaluate talent in the past 5 years. So, yeah, I think it's a terrible trade. I think it's one of the worst trades I've seen in recent history. Honestly, it's a terrible one.
If Ryan Poles could just make every trade involving DJ Moore, he'd be the greatest GM of all time. If every trade just involved DJ Moore, he would be the greatest GM ever, period. That's what I'll say.
So tell me this. If they traded him away for a 7th rounder, is it still a positive for the Bears? Net positive for the Bears?
No.
You don't think so?
No. I would have wanted at least
free up the cap space.
No. Because, I mean, he's a better player than a 7th rounder. Like, that's a
Yeah,
when you trade somebody for a 7th, that's a salary
Bring
dump.
up the cap space on a guy that is hurting your locker room actively. And on the
I
decline.
think you're overestimating how much he hurt the Bears locker room. I mean, yes, he could be, like I said, a headache, but I think that the Bears guys loved him. I mean, you should have, like, I don't know. I think that he was more well-liked than you are giving him credit for, in my opinion.
I don't think so.
Obviously, I'm not in that locker room.
I think Ben Johnson always hated him.
Scoring two game-winning touchdowns against the Packers. It sounds like I'm joking, but that takes you a long way. And if you're in Illinois and you're a Bears fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, that'll give you a lot of good credit. And I joke a lot. I'm actually legitimately not joking about that. Like, that is you'd be surprised at how much street cred that gives you.
Well, if we're on the topic of wide receivers getting traded, let's move on to A.J. Brown now and his trade rumors. A.J. Brown is another diva, big personality receiver, but he has the talent to back it up a little bit more. Now, he is coming off a down year where the film wasn't very good, but someone is still going to pay up. Someone's still going to pay up big. A.J. Brown, potential trade. Apparently, The Eagles are looking for a Quinion Williams-like return. So remember that Quinion Williams trade at the deadline. They're looking for a return like that. I think they'll get a big return out of him. I don't know if it'll be that big. Am I wrong?
Well, before today, I would have told you that you were wrong. But if DJ Moore's getting you the 60th overall pick, I mean, it must be a seller's market right now for receivers. I mean, clearly, maybe GMs are just not as in love with this receiver draft. I know it's not a great receiver draft by any means. I think there's some guys that I really like. But if they want a first round plus for AJ Brown, again, I thought they were smoking crack a couple of days ago, but maybe Howie Roseman is playing interdimensional 4D chess, and here he knows the moves before they happen. Like I think that probably that's what the market dictates right now, because you're right, AJ Brown is more talented than DJ Moore. He's also more of a diva than DJ Moore. You want to talk about a guy who's cancerous to his locker room. Nothing screams I'm cancerous like reading a book about self-help in the NFC Championship game, or yelling at your quarterback or this, that, whatever. Like, he is a big cancer to the Eagles, but you're right, he's mostly been a much better player. But there was a lot of problems this year. There were some drops. There were some really, really like odd dips in production. Some of that can be blamed on Kevin Patullo, I'm sure. But it just doesn't seem like the A.J. Brown and Philadelphia Eagles are going to be married for much longer. Like, it really doesn't. It felt that way this year. Throughout the season, it felt like he might have been moved at the deadline. But obviously the Eagles were contenders. It would have been very surprising to see them move their wide receiver one. But there are some teams. I would have told you the Buffalo Bills, honestly, would have been a team that I thought could have made a move for A.J. Brown. They're probably off the table now, unless they want to just get really crazy and do both of that. But I think the Bills are not out. But, I mean, what are some teams that you really look at that you say, okay, this team is in desperate need of a receiver. They are willing to give up a first-round plus to get a guy like A.J. Brown? Because there's one team that comes to my mind, but I want to hear what your answer is first, because mine's probably a little more conspiratorial.
Well, with the Patriots releasing Stephon Diggs, I do think the Patriots are definitely a team to keep in mind here, especially considering Mike Vrabel liked him. I mean, Mike Vrabel was pissed when he had to get rid of him. He wanted to keep him around, and they just dished him away anyway. He was pissed at the GM over that. So I think the Patriots are definitely a team to think about right here. I think they're the main team in my mind for sure. I'm curious, what team do you have in mind, though?
Yeah, no, to elaborate what you said, the Patriots are and should be the runaway favorites to land him. I don't think that there is really any doubt about that. You mentioned the Mike Vrabel connection. One of my favorite clips ever is Mike Vrabel like slamming the desk on draft day, and then like the ticker comes up that the Titans and Eagles made a trade. Like, just the funniest thing ever. That actually was the beginning of the end of his tenure in Tennessee. So maybe they can now both migrate over to New England and live happily ever after. My team's the Baltimore Ravens. I think that they make a lot of sense. Obviously,
They
you
need
want to
that
talk.
type of guy.
They
need
need
that type of
they
player.
need that type of guy, and I'm not saying I'm necessarily predicting it, but if you want a team that's like a sneaky good landing spot for AJ Brown, let me throw you the Baltimore Ravens. They actually, I would argue that them having such a high pick might hurt them in this instance. So maybe they get creative. They give them like a second and a first round pick swap or something to that effect. But yeah, I think if you're talking about AJ Brown landing spots, I mean, I think that the Baltimore Ravens make a lot of sense, as do the New England Patriots. Obviously, you want to give Drake May his superstar receiver. We'll talk later about a guy who they thought was going to be that for him, but clearly was not. AJ Brown,
You
to
know what I
me, I mean,
notice? What I notice about both the teams we said, the
mm,
deep ball.
yeah,
I mean, Lamar Jackson can throw a hell of a deep ball.
yes, he
Drake
can.
May can throw a hell of
Yes,
a
he
deep
can.
ball. You unlock a huge element of AJ Brown's game by stretching the field,
Yeah.
by having guys that could throw balls on the sideline, and they do a phenomenal. He does a phenomenal job just going ahead and getting it. And he is so great at winning those 50-50 balls.
Yeah.
But I do think a key part of AJ Brown's game that almost became forgotten in Philly was his playmaking after the catch. That was what he was known for in Tennessee. And I think specifically Josh McDaniels understands how to get the balance of use his 50-50 ball ability, use his ability to stretch the field, but also just get the ball in his hands. Give him a quick slant and watch him run, right? Declan Doyle, he might be doing the same stuff. I mean, people have been talking him up for valid reason.
Yeah.
I have faith in his ability to use him in a similar way. I just know I've seen my entire life. Josh McDaniels has always known how to use every aspect of player skill sets. He has always been about that.
Yeah, and I'll say like Kevin Matula didn't do a lot of things right. The one thing he did do decently well, they did give AJ Brown a decent amount of 50-50 balls last year. In between his 500 hitch routes, he was rewarded with the occasional fade route. I remember specifically he put Nashawn Wright in an absolute blender last year. That was one of the only good offensive plays they had that game. But you're right, AJ Brown still has a lot in the tank. I don't think his rack ability was properly utilized in Philly. And again, in a place like New England, what does Drake May do really well? A, throws the deep ball, but B, he's just really accurate. And that bodes well for guys that are really good after the catch. You want them being hit in stride. You want the ball being placed in a position that is advantageous for them to get yards after the catch and create after they get the ball in their hands. So the Patriots clearly make a lot of sense. The Ravens make a lot of sense. I heard recently somebody brought up the Kansas City Chiefs. This was a couple days ago. Now that they have the 29th pick, that's probably in the A.J. Brown range. I don't think they have the money. We just talked about how they're in salary cap hell. That to me is kind of X'd out, crossed out. I don't know
Yeah,
that the
I'm with
Chiefs
you.
are able to do that. But I do imagine that a contending team who is maybe a little weak at receiver, this is why. Like, if you would have asked me this question, yesterday morning, you said, where are you putting A.J. Brown? I would have said the Buffalo Bills, clearly. And they kept that logic with DJ Moore, obviously needing a receiver. Are you I want to touch on something you said in the beginning. You talked about, hey, the Eagles are wanting the Quinnen Williams type of package. They're wanting a first round plus. Like they want a team to give them, probably even more than what the Kansas City Chiefs got for Trent McDuffie. If you're a team in desperate need of receiver, are you willing to pay that price? Are you willing to go that round, go that far for a guy who is a little bit older, not old, but older, expensive, and obviously has had some, I don't want to call them character issues, but let's call them dramatic flare-ups. Are you comfortable giving up that price for a guy like AJ Brown?
It doesn't matter what you call them. I don't want them on my team. I'll be quite honest, especially for that price. Now, here's the thing, right? AJ Brown, very talented receiver. Out of all the receivers on the market right now, he's probably the best. But the film, what he put on tape last year was not good. It wasn't very good. Now, he still was kind of productive, but you are a little bit worried about that tape. And I think a player coming off of a down year like that, you're not getting more than a first rounder for him. And I think the Eagles are in a spot where they need to get rid of him just because AJ Brown's forcing his way out. They need to get rid of him. So because of that, I really do think the Ravens might just have to give up a first. We might see that the Patriots, they have a very high first or very low first, I guess, in this term, but they might have to just give up a first. I don't see it being more than that. I really don't. So I wouldn't really fret if I'm one of those two teams.
Yeah, if I'm New England and Howie Roseman calls me and he's like, "Listen, we'll give you AJ Brown. We want pick 31." I'm probably doing that,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
But like I said with the Ravens, they didn't make the playoffs this year, meaning their first round pick is higher. I believe it's pick 14. I can fact check that, but it's very close, if not exactly at pick 14. If Howie Roseman's like, "Hey, I want pick 14 for AJ Brown," I'm hanging up the phone faster than you could say the word AJ Brown
What about a
with
pick
two words.
swap?
That's what I'm saying. So maybe they go the route of we pick swap first and then you add like a third. So you move up
Yeah.
10 spots in
I
the
think that's
draft.
possible. I think that's
That's
very likely.
possible. And if I'm Baltimore, I'd say, well, I get to keep to remind the audience like 24 is where the Ravens typically pick. Like that's like their median range. So if you're saying to yourself, okay, we had a down year, we're gonna pick where we normally pick, we're gonna add AJ Brown. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, but I agree with you. Like the Quinnen Williams package, get out of here. That's not happening. You also have to take into effect what his salary is going to be because we mentioned that with DJ Moore, how big of a factor that was for the Bears and how much of a factor it was now for the Bills to acquire him. Looking at AJ Brown, I mean, his contract is fairly reasonable. His cap hits for the next 3 years are 22 million, 27 million, 29 million. So he does get progressively more expensive. He will become an unrestricted free agent at age 33 in 2030. It looks like to me on Spotlight these next 3 years are there's no options, there's no opt outs. So it does look like he is getting a pretty decent chunk of change the next 3 years, pretty much regardless of where he's at. But the dead cap for him would be $27 million in 2027. Oh, I'm sorry. The dead cap for him in 2026 is $72 million. Wow, Howie Roseman, great design on that contract, my friend. Next year would be $27 million. Following year, 15, then 5. So it could be, you could get out of it in a year or two. I don't know that this is necessarily your thought process if you're going to trade for a guy like AJ Brown, but this would not be, I don't think, an albatross contract, regardless of what you decide to give up for him.
I agree. I think the thing with AJ Brown more than anything, if you have a main concern, it's again the tape last year wasn't very strong. Now, part of that was Kevin Patullo ran hitch routes at the highest rate in like NFL history. Overall, his passing concepts were terrible. So it's easy to just scapegoat Kevin Patullo, but there was also a little bit of effort concerns, and also he just generally wasn't winning with physicality like he used to. So I think there is a little bit of concern in that sense. But with a guy like him, you could see that he was frustrated and he didn't play as well because of that. I don't think that's him regressing. Again, that's the optimistic perspective. If you want to be a pessimist, you probably shouldn't make the trade because that is significant capital to bring in a guy like him.
I do think that
but he could be a huge upgrade.
Yeah, and it's funny we're talking about a team that's coming off winning the Super Bowl, but I do think the situation, the pressure, everything like that, I think it did affect him. Like I do think it is, and I know we say they're professional athletes and they're supposed to block out all the noise, but for a guy like AJ Brown, I don't think he was able to do that necessarily. I think he created a lot of noise himself. Didn't necessarily mind putting some gasoline on the fire during press conferences. So a lot of that I do think was self-inflicted. But you're right. I mean. He wasn't winning physically. There wasn't the yards after catch ability. Is that Kevin Patullo? Is that AJ Brown? Probably more Kevin Patullo, but also maybe a little bit AJ Brown. So who knows? I don't know. I think it'd be very interesting. I would bet money that AJ Brown is not a Philadelphia Eagle come August. To what team and for what, I think is more interesting. But I do believe if he's going to get traded, it will happen before the draft so that the pick swaps can fall as they be. But a first-round pick, again, I say this, but DJ Moore just got you pick 60, so I don't know. I don't think that the Eagles will get a
first-rounders for AJ Brown. Book it.
Yeah, give him the Trey Lance deal. I don't know that AJ Brown gets you a straight first unless you are New England, who has pick 31, right, or something like that. But I don't know, man. Could Denver be a destination for AJ Brown? They don't really have like a stud receiver, I don't think.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
that definitely would be cool.
And again, you get pick 30. That makes sense.
It would be nice because they have kind of AJ Brown split into two players. They have like the aggregate of AJ Brown with Courtland Sutton and Marvin Mims.
Yeah.
Right? Marvin Mims being the after catch threat and then Courtland Sutton being the deep ball guy.
Yeah, big
but
body
then
deep ball guy.
Just get like the fusion of the two.
Yeah.
With AJ Brown, I think that would be really cool. I do. I think that would be interesting.
Maybe I'm talking myself into Denver.
Sean Payton would design a lot of crazy ways to get him the ball.
Are you guys notice? Yeah, go ahead.
He could play that Michael Thomas role in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he could.
Say, if AJ Brown can play like the player he did during the Super Bowl run, I could see him like doing real like NFL Hall of Fame caliber numbers this season. I mean, I think that was almost a perfect ending.
He was a top 5 or 6 receiver 2 seasons ago. You know what I mean? So this is a guy. It's not like it's not like it's been 5 years since he's been good. I want to also point out to our viewers, if you've noticed, all of our destinations that we've been pointing out for AJ Brown are all AFC contenders. I wonder if that's. I wonder if that was on purpose or not. But speaking of AFC contenders and speaking of wide receivers. The reigning AFC champion made a big move in the last couple of days by releasing formerly superstar wide receiver Stefon Diggs. I'm not going to lie, Patrick. It's been a rough couple of weeks for him, excuse me. Not only did he lose the Super Bowl, but he lost his girlfriend. Him and Cardi B have tragically split. And then he lost his team. It's not a good week to be a Diggs brother. But on the bright side, there is not a lot of bright side, really. I was trying to figure out a bright side. There's not much. Those 3 things happening in succession kind of sucks. Maybe he can find another yacht to party on in this offseason. But I do think it's interesting because, he was brought in to be Drake May's wide receiver 1. The guy who was going to help Drake May ascend into this superstar status, which, in fairness, Drake May did. He was the runner-up for league MVP. He looks every bit like a franchise quarterback that they wanted when he came out of North Carolina. But Stephon Diggs is not going to make it to his second season as a New England Patriot. Much of that, I'm sure, is because of the contract. But when you look at Stephon Diggs and you look at the Patriots deciding to let him go, what was your kind of gut reaction? What was your gut feeling? Do you think this was the right decision? Or do you think that the Patriots should have just ate the money and paid him for the next couple of seasons?
There's been a theme for this episode, huh? The locker room issues with wide receivers.
Yeah.
And that is legitimately what I think this came down to. More than the money, because they have all the money in the world. They really do.
They do.
More than the money, more than any of the stuff like that. I really do think this was just Mike Vrabel, a big culture guy, saying, listen, you didn't show up to half the offseason program.
Yeah.
You were a distraction off the field.
He got arrested during, was it training camp? Or he got in trouble, legal trouble during one of those OTAs or something? Yeah.
He was a constant distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think Vrabel looks at that, and he's one of the guys that means more than most other traits of a player to Mike Vrabel. He preaches culture. And I guess a guy like A.J. Brown, he's able to love for whatever reason, but Stephon Diggs, he crosses the line. I'm not sure exactly how, but
A.J. Brown's taller, so that's probably why.
Well, and A.J. Brown never missed time. A.J. Brown.
I will say A.J. Brown's been a distraction, and he's been dramatic, but he hasn't had like legal trouble like Stephon Diggs has had. And to me, like if that is what you're saying is true, like that's a bigger issue. That's a distraction for the team, for the media, for everything beyond just what happens in between, the white lines.
A.J. Brown is more like the OBJ label of diva receiver, where you're just a fiery competitor.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Stephon Diggs is like the Antonio Browns, where it goes off the field and it brings you negative attention.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever compare anybody to Antonio Brown, a guy who like went shirtless.
No, but I'm saying it's like an archetype.
Yeah, he's closer on that spectrum. Yes,
facilitating sharpshooter.
Yes.
Two-way, that type of thing. If we're talking like 2K builds of
you really know ball
personalities for a season.
Okay. All right, show up. Did you have the shooter sleeve? Because whenever I designed my guy, I was a white guy corner 3 shooter. I always had the shooter sleeve on. I
always made sure to get the most recent Kevin Love jersey. Let me make it very clear. Kevin Love.
This is a Kevin Love episode now.
Kevin Love is by far my favorite player in the NBA. It's not close. It isn't close.
Is he still in the NBA?
By far. Huh? Yeah, he's still in the NBA. He's on the Utah Jazz, which means I'm a Utah Jazz fan.
Hell
yeah.
My favorite player of all time is, not to get into NBA, but my favorite player of all time is Jimmy Butler, and that's because he went on like 2 or 3 dates with Selena Gomez. So I've been envious of that ever since. And he was a Bulls player. Obviously, that's my guy. I guess I'm by default a Bulls fan. But speaking of the Bills, not the Bulls, see what I did there? I'm so funny. This is a situation where they let him go a couple of seasons ago, went to the Texans. He tore his ACL, and I think there was a lot of questions. Hey, is this guy with his age going to be able to be a productive receiver? The Patriots gave him $69 million contract, which I thought at the time was a bit much, but he had a decently productive year. He had 85 catches. He had over 1,000 yards, scored 4 touchdowns. And again, I do think that he really did help Drake May to ascend to that superstar status. But now that Drake May's the guy, because you bring in a guy like Stephon Diggs to help with your evaluation of Drake May, now that he's the guy, do you really want to pay him the majority of his contract? Given everything that we've said, he's a good receiver, not great receiver. I would certainly want DJ Moore over him. Not to like restoke this argument, but I'd rather have DJ Moore than Stephon Diggs at this point.
Wow, that is crazy.
That's just me. Again,
I think that's crazy.
We don't have to jump on that bridge.
Yeah, no, let's not spark the argument. That's insane.
I think we've had a lot of like endless arguments over the years. I think we found our next one.
This might be our biggest disagreement.
This might be our biggest disagreement
on either this show or the old one.
Yeah.
This was by far the most.
Well, you still don't think that Devin Hester belonged in the Hall of Fame, so we'll reach on that a different day.
We'll talk about that.
But what's your thing with Bears receivers, man? What's your thing with the Bears, man?
Is he even a receiver? Is Hester even a receiver?
Greatest returner of all time. Speaking of, anyways,
is he?
Yes,
stop.
We're gonna get way too far into this. We're on a time limit, man. We're trying to keep things structured. But Stephon Diggs had a decently productive season. Like if I told you last, offseason this would be his numbers, you'd definitely take that if you were the Patriots. So again, the cut to me came at a bit of a surprise.
his film was really good. Like, here's the big thing
The knee
with
didn't really hamper him at all, which was great.
like,
I thought that was going to be a
here's
concern.
the big thing that people need to start to understand. Route running is the most important skill in the modern NFL at wide
Yes, I
receiver.
agree. I
Without a
agree.
doubt. It is indisputable. I think that has been proven since 2019 and how Michael Thomas wrecked the league. That has been indisputable because all the top receivers are always these unbelievable route runners. And that doesn't really go away with age. It really doesn't. Now, you slow down a little bit, so you get a little bit worse. But if you're technical as a route runner, I mean, that's why Keenan Allen's had the shelf life that he has. And that's why Stephon Diggs, even coming off of an ACL tear, has honestly put up great film. I think the film from Stephon Diggs is even better than the numbers. Like, I think Stephon Diggs was quietly like a really, really good receiver last year.
Yeah, and that's to me why when I saw the news initially, I was kind of like, "Oh, this is I'm thrown off a little bit. Like this is pretty shocking." But like you said, the off the field stuff, the character stuff could be a big reason. Although I did hear that Mike Vrabel and Cardi B were getting along pretty well. Maybe he was distraught after the breakup, and Mike Vrabel had to take Cardi B's side on that. But I don't know, man. Like to me, I am still kind of questioning the move. I wonder if in the back of their heads they have a replacement ready to go. Maybe it's an AJ Brown trade. Maybe they have a guy that they really like at pick 31. Maybe
Mike
they're going to
Evans.
sign a Mike Evans exactly. So I don't know, but they have to have a plan because just cutting Stephon Diggs out of nowhere like this when you're paying him a decent amount, you're not paying him a crazy amount. To me was a bit disappointing.
No, I'm with you, but I think there's a reason. I think they
Yeah.
have first off, I think they have a lot of guys like that. I think they have guys like Demario Douglas, right? These
Yeah.
receiver Kyle Williams, right? He
Mhm.
was starting to show up a lot towards the end of the year. They have that build of receiver all over their roster.
Yeah.
I think this was about
Booty as well, I
freeing
throw
up a
in there.
little bit of cap. I think it was about getting rid of the locker room presence.
Mhm.
And I think more than anything, it's the fact that they want a bigger body receiver. I
Yeah.
think that they understand Drake May has the best deep ball in the league right now. And to really capitalize on that, we need a Mike Evans. We need a go up and grab it type of guy.
Yeah.
Even if that's Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce would be a hell of
That
a
would.
signing if they
Yeah.
bring him on.
Yeah, that would.
And
Especially not even a guy that's tall, but a guy that's tall with long arms. That just gives your deep ball, even more room for error or even more room where you could just put it out in front of the guy and just have him run under it with those long arms. So I agree with you. I don't think that Diggs fit the archetype that they want with Drake May and with this offense. But again, I think he's a good player. I think actually you're right. He did have a better year. I will concede that he had a better year last year than DJ Moore. That is pretty indisputable.
he's a better player. This isn't like I
This
can't
is Battle
believe
of the
that
Maryland receivers. Battle of Maryland receivers, dude. They're both. What are they at Maryland? What's the mascot? Man, I should really know this. Um,
Terrapins.
Terrapins. Battle of
Terrapins.
Terrapins. Yeah. So
Yeah, I
who
mean,
knows? I guess they're both.
this guy claims to be a DJ Moore fan and doesn't even know the
I'm not a
Terrapins.
DJ Moore fan. I'm a truther. Sorry. You awakened something
uh,
spiritual in me. But no, this is this is clearly a player that is one of the more intriguing options now on the free agency market. Speaking of intriguing options on the free agency market, there's another team located in the Northeast that I want to get into, talking about a very specific position and some rumors that are circulating around them. That team I have in mind is, of course, the New York Giants, and the rumor is surrounding their reported interest in the running back market. Now, this running back market, I would say, got a little bit weaker with the franchise tagging of Breece Hall a few days ago, but there's still a lot of intriguing options, including the Super Bowl MVP and Kenneth Walker, who by the day, by the hour, by the minute seems like he will just no longer be a Seattle Seahawk. Patrick, I'll start with you. Like when you're hearing these rumors about the Giants and their desire to maybe go out and get a guy in the running back market, what names stick out to you? And is there a particular fit that you think would vault New York's offense one or two steps, one or two tiers above where they're at right now?
well, let me start by saying you mentioned Ken Walker winning the Super Bowl MVP.
You're gonna make a
The
Maris
video
reference, yep.
listeners know I'm not exactly happy about that. I think there was a generational, in fact, the biggest snub in the history of the Oscars, anything.
Yep. Yep.
That was involved in that. So let me say I'm devastated that you had to remind me.
Marist alumnus Jason Myers was robbed.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. But he still gets to be
Never.
the highest scorer in league history. So
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
season.
You're right.
So
You're right. Hey,
we're leaving
small
with
school
something.
guy, keep us humble.
Yeah. Like Denzel meme with I'm leaving with something. That's that right there.
Yeah, but I mean, you ask, is there anyone specific I think can really be a game changer for them? You really found the one way to not let me be anti-running back.
I did. I phrased it that way. I'm so glad that you picked up on that because I was gonna originally say like, is this something you would invest in? Is this something you would do? And I know you were just gonna be like, no. So I changed the question to be which guy. See, this is advanced levels of English right here. Okay.
Okay,
I was
I respect
thinking
it.
ahead.
I respect it.
Yeah. Thank you for picking
I
up on
do
that. I
think
appreciate it.
if you bring in Jeremiah Love with their first round pick,
Ooh,
it
fifth,
makes
I
it
believe.
easier for Matt Nagy to not single-handedly sell the offense. I
I
will say
love the
that.
way you phrased that because you gave no credit. You were like, it makes it easier for Matt Nagy. This just workaround to just never give credit to running backs, dude. This is absolutely masterful.
Yeah,
This is
I'll
just
say
this is great.
Jeremiah Love is a great running back. That being said,
But yep,
Tyrone Tracy had 1,000 yards back-to-back years.
yep,
Limited role both of those years, by the way.
yep.
Back-to-back years, Tyrone Tracy, 1,000-yard rusher. That was because of John Runyon up front. That was because of Jermaine Illuminor. They're potentially going to let Jermaine Illuminor walk.
Yeah.
If they do that and let these offensive linemen, who I know they're not the biggest names on earth, but they're good players.
Mm-hmm.
If they let these guys walk, and I believe Connor McGovern is one of the guys that they might let walk. If they let them walk just to sign Ken Walker with that money, Ken Walker isn't going to do very much.
Mm-hmm.
Because running back,
Here it is.
there's not a single run play. And I'm saying in terms of the concept. Of course, there's individual run plays, but there's not a single conceptual run play that revolves around the running back more than it revolves around at least two offensive linemen. There's not a single one.
Yeah.
And we literally saw they moved on from Saquon and their running game got better. It got better. And that's not me trash talking Saquon. That's just you need to hit on the offensive line. You need to have a good offensive line to have a good run game.
Right.
So if they bring in Ken Walker, that would be downright stupidity. If they pay him big money, it would be stupid because you don't have the offensive line. They need to re-sign the guys they currently have. They need to bolster that offensive line because the offensive line has been good the past 2 years.
Yeah.
If you lose that, you are not going to have a good run game. Now, I will say, Ken Walker and what he adds in the receiving game, that will be very nice. It will.
Mm-hmm.
And what Jeremiah Love might add in the receiving game will be very nice. Those are the two players they're rumored to be looking at.
Yeah.
Hoping it's a smokescreen. We will see. But I do really look at it from a perspective of if you're going to spend money on Ken Walker over offensive line talent, you're in it. You deserve all the trouble that's going to come to you. And if you choose to go with Jeremiah Love with the 5th overall pick over Sonny Styles if he falls, over Arvell Reese if he falls,
Caleb Downs will be there.
Yeah, Caleb Downs. I mean, if you choose to go with Jeremiah Love, who again I acknowledge very good running back, over those guys, prepare for the Ashton Genty rookie year again. I mean, Ashton Genty, he's a heck of a player. Did it matter? The Raiders still lost all those games because it's hard to run when you don't have an offensive line.
Yeah, and I'll say two things to what you just said. Number one, thank you for mentioning Tyrone Tracy. People act like he just doesn't exist. Everyone wants to talk about Cam Scattaboo and his Twitch streams. Tyrone Tracy's proven to be a solid running back. And number two, I'll give you guys a little peek behind the curtain here. We're planning on going live for the draft, and I pray to God that the Giants pick Jeremiah Love with the 5th overall pick because I want to see how angry a man can get. I want to look at this laptop that is right next to me and just see Patrick like melting down. He's going to be so hot, he'll melt all the snow in New York. But I agree with you. I don't think that there should be a consideration for Jeremiah Love. Running back, I'm not as anti-running back as you are, don't get me wrong, but it is a luxury pick at the end of the day. The Giants are in no shape to be taking luxury players. They are in, I think, no shape to be losing a guy like or paying a guy like Kenneth Walker when they have offensive lineman that is set to hit free agency. So I think these Giants running back rumors, I do think the human side of this, and again, these are professionals, they're the best in the business, blah, 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 blah. They're human beings. The human side of this is the PR of losing Saquon Barkley, watching him go to your hated rival. He got 2,000 yards, and then he won the Super Bowl, won Offensive Player of the Year, was horrible. You can argue it's the right move, and I agree with you. Like, the Giants were probably in no position to keep Saquon Barkley, but the PR behind that was horrible. If they're in a situation to get a superstar running back like that again, to get the Super Bowl MVP, to get the best collegiate running back in the draft, which both are somewhat realistic opportunities for them, it would be really hard for that front office, who is known to be very good, clearly, to pass up that opportunity to win back some good PR from the giant market that is the New York media. So I do think, like I said, there is a human element to this where I do think they'll feel some pressure to go out and get the next Saquon Barkley, be it either in free agency or in the draft.
I think you're right about there being pressure, but there's
It shouldn't dictate their decisions, but it might.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is it might, because
no. It probably will, because we're talking about the New York Giants.
Yep.
And that's the thing. The good teams, the Rams, the Ravens, they consistently say, I don't care what the fans think.
Yeah.
I know what's best.
Exactly.
And that works when you actually do know what's best, which the Rams and Ravens do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you who never knows the best. The overall fan base. Very rarely, other than when we're talking about like a Luka over and traded to
Dude, my mom could have told you that was a fleece. Like, there's no, you don't get it. They don't get points for that.
Yeah, other than like a handful of situations, generally the overall fan base doesn't know all the stuff, right? And that's not me trash. Like, fans watch the sport. They get it. But like, you guys are evaluating.
Well, fan stands for fanatic. I mean, that's what they are. They're not analysts or people in front offices.
More than anything, though, you're a group of guys that have been evaluating, at least I hope evaluating, time for them to actually prove it by proving these are just rumors. You have been analyzing team building strategies and what works. What they should do, because Cam Scatterboot is coming off an injury, they should probably pay a cheaper guy. They should probably go with a cheaper running back.
Tyler Algier would be fine.
Yeah. Hey, perfect. Tyler
Algier would be fine with them.
And Tyrone Tracy. I love the sound of that.
You do. That. You would. And I hate that I just added to your agenda, but I had to throw it out there. I had to raise my hand because I had an answer.
It would be perfect.
Yeah,
that would be
nice.
Perfect. Because you're not forcing Tyler Algier out of his limited role that he's used to. And Tyrone Tracy's
it'd be 1A and 1B, the running back. It would be committee running back room, essentially, and then you get Scatterboot back, and
Because here's the reality, man. There are probably, this is probably hyperbole, there are probably just about 190, 80 running backs that I trust in like a limited role.
Yeah.
As like 1A, 1B type of guys.
Yeah.
That's where I stand. And I know you hate me saying that.
I do.
But like, that's really how I look at this. We have a oversaturation of running backs. There are very few times where I could really get on board with paying a huge price to get a guy on, unless you have the pieces there. The Raiders showed you what happens when you don't have the pieces. You end up playing really poorly.
Yeah. And, the Giants, to a certain degree, did that with Saquon Barkley for a few years. Like, their offensive line, he was phenomenal, but their offensive line was in shambles. How many great running backs? I mean, a lesser known example, and one I'll make this quick. I'll make this less homery than I wanted to. But a guy that I've always loved that I thought had no chance was Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny dealt with some injuries, yes, but when he played, he was good. But he just didn't have – there were just no holes in that Seattle offensive line. I mean, their offensive line for a 5 or 6 year stretch was horrendous. Literal traffic cones on the field. And, you could take a guy and you could love the talent, whatever, but if your offensive line is not set up and you're not able to give him the lanes to run, it's just not going to work. I mean, these guys aren't, with the exception of maybe like Derrick Henry, these guys aren't superhumans, right? They can't just like throw guys off of them all day, every day. So, yeah, there's some interesting thoughts behind the Giants. I'm curious what they do. I do think they'll make a big splash. Just if I'm kind of at the buzzer throwing out a prediction, I do think they do make a big splash. Probably Kenneth Walker. Honestly, I think that they make the most sense for him. But that's pretty much going to do it for this episode of Ahead of the Chains. Thank you guys for watching. This was definitely our beefiest episode. We had a lot to go through, but I think we did pretty good time. I don't think we dragged at all. But thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you guys next episode.